All right, so on this one, we're just going to review a little bit on factoring the quadratics like we did last week. All right, so what I'm looking for here in this top left one, I see that it is a positive 24. So that means that the answer, the two factors, these parts, are going to be the same signs. All right. And so it's same signs because that's a plus, and they are both going to be negative. So the plus sign tells you that it's the same signs, but you look to that middle term to determine whether they're plus plus or minus minus. All right, the answer here is going to be 3 and 8. I was looking for two numbers that multiplied to 24, and they add up to 11. They multiply to 24, and they add up to 11. All right, let's do this one in red to the right here. So I'm looking for two numbers. Well, first off, all right, x and x, because that's the only way you can get x squared. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 60, and they subtract to give you 4. So they multiply to 60, and they subtract to give you 4. Right. That's going to be 10 and 6. Remember, if you get stuck on one, you're going to have to list out the factors. All right. It does take a second, but that is the way you do it. All right. Now for the signs, all right, it's not a plus sign like this one. So when it's a minus here, that means you're going to have different signs. So 1 plus, 1 minus, or it could be minus plus. And you look at the middle term again to determine. So because this is negative, our bigger number, the 10, is going to be negative, and the other one's a plus sign. So that tells us different signs. This tells us that the bigger number has to be negative. All right, let's go on to the purples. Let's see. Yeah, let's do the one on the left here. I got to factor out a -1 first. I don't think you have to actually do these in your homework, but factor out the -1 first. Got to keep that in mind. So I'm changing signs. Yeah, in order to factor, this part has to be a 1. At least right now they do. All right, negative x and x. They're the same signs, and they are both negative. So minus, minus, and it's got to be a 1 and a 4. They multiply to give you 4, and they add up to give you 5. All right, this one in purple here, this last one, x and x. Now, the way you would start this is you would say, what two numbers multiply to 16 and subtract to give you 8? Well, here's all the factors of 16. Okay? Now, none of these will subtract to give you 8. So because of that, we would say that this is not factorable. What you guys are going to write on your on Canvas, I think, is you're just going to type in the word prime. It's prime because it does not factor. All right, difference of squares. So let's do the one in the middle first. Okay, we're going to break it down like this. All right, 9x squared is a perfect square because it's equal to 3x. So I put a 3x in both of those spots. And 16 is a perfect square because of 4 times 4. So I was looking for some number times itself to give me 9x squared. And then one's plus and one's minus. That's supposed to be a plus sign there. Jeez. Yeah, let's do that. We'll do that top left one last. All right, so again, this is going to be difference of squares. What times itself will give us x to the 6th power? That's x to the 3rd. Remember, if you multiplied these, you would add the exponents. And then what times itself will give you y to the 10th? That's y to the 5th. So I'm just cutting those exponents in half. That's all I'm doing. Minus, plus. All right, for this third one here, so there's 6 is not a perfect square, and 24 is not a perfect square. So what we need to check for first is the greatest common factor. All right, I can divide these both by 6. So I'm going to do 6 parentheses x squared minus 4. All right, and now this will break down into the difference of squares. It'll be an x and a 2, x and a 2, 1 plus, 1 minus. Okay, so notice all of these, all 3 examples, it was a minus sign in the middle. Okay, if it were a plus sign in the middle, like x squared plus 25, this would not factor. Okay, so the difference of squares, it has to be a subtraction in the middle.